3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. This is Kathy, the Executive Director of IMPAC Fund. We are going to give folks a couple of minutes to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. We are very excited to present to you today. We have a great panel of people that are joining us, and we're just going to give things a couple more minutes so we can get started and make sure that give folks a chance to log on. Thank you for your patience. Thank you so much for those of you who are on. We are just going to take a couple more minutes to make sure that everybody can get logged on before we start. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So if
Hi, Kathy, this is Pilar.
Hi, Pilar. Thank you for joining us. If you could just mute your phone,
yes.
we're going to get started really soon. Thank you so much for getting on. Just one more minute, and then we will start. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We wanted to make sure we got everybody a chance to get on. I want to get things started. So welcome to our webcast, Helping Small Businesses Apply for PPP in Florida. Today we have people on from different parts of the state. My name is Kathy Bird Carvajal. I'm the Executive Director of IMPAC Fund. IMPAC Fund is the Florida chapter of the American Business Immigration Coalition. Together, we represent a growing and diverse set of businesses and business associations promoting common sense federal immigration reform to benefit the people and the economy of Florida. We support policies and practices that recognize the important contributions that immigrants make to our economy and our communities. Today, I will be co-moderating today's webinar with Deanne Conley-Graham. She is the chair of the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, Women's Business Council, and a board member of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. Deanne has worked in the tourism and hospitality industry in Florida for over 25 years. In April 2013, Deanne formed ROI Media Consultants, a business development company that focuses on connecting clients with strategic partners and prospects. Deanne believes in creating partnerships and strategic alliances rather than fearing the competition. So she focuses on building a strong professional network through her extensive involvement with the community. Because of COVID-19, Deanne has had to shift her business totally online, which has been a major adjustment, but the transition has proven to be beneficial. It is my pleasure to welcome Deanne Conley-Graham.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Kathy, for inviting me to be a part of this very important informational webinar. Working in the South Florida community, it's been, in the tourism industry, it has obviously been very traumatic to see many of my colleagues' businesses who have closed, lots of friends that are in desperate financial situation. And at the same time, we're trying to balance that with the health concerns. So it's definitely a traumatic time. It's also very hard for people to try to apply for funds and then get turned down, or they can't get the application in, or they hear the money has run out. So I'm very grateful that you are able to share some information with us on what another round that is available for our businesses, because we are suffering quite a bit. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Deanne, for your support and for always being so generous with your network and with your knowledge. You are so appreciated. So now we're going to do an update. We would like to give you all an update of what is happening in Congress. First of all, we want to thank our congressional champions, including Senator Marco Rubio and Representative Nydia Velázquez, the chairs of the small business committees in the Senate and the House, respectively, for their tireless efforts to ensure that the small businesses most in need are not left behind. This Tuesday, the Senate passed a $484 billion deal, which included $310 billion in new funding for the Paycheck Protection Program. The House is expected to vote on the package today or tomorrow. This deal also includes $60 billion for Small Business Administration disaster assistance loans and grants. The new proposal for PPP funding passed in the Senate includes a $30 billion allocation specifically for community lenders, small banks and credit unions, and an additional $30 billion will be allocated for medium-sized banks and credit unions. While this is a step in the right direction, the proposal fails to set aside dedicated funds for community development financial institutions, CDFIs, and minority depository institutions, MDIs, which have demonstrated a track record of prioritizing small businesses with the greatest need, including Black, immigrant, women-owned businesses, smaller businesses, and businesses located in economically distressed areas. ABIC is pushing for a $10 billion set aside specifically for CDFIs so that they don't have to compete with the huge lenders. Realistically, we think we'll get $5 billion. Without a specific set aside for CDFIs and MDIs, there is a concern that similarly to what we saw with the initial rollout, the majority of the new PPP money will go to larger, wealthier, less diverse businesses, and the program will not live up to its legislative intent. While we're very happy that CDFIs and MDIs are named, we are still concerned because they are still competing with banks with 97% of banks that are under $10 billion. At least it's in the statute, but the money could run out in a couple of days. Unless there's a meaningful set aside, we will see that this money will vanish. So the intent of the PPP has been to get cash quickly to the small businesses to pay their workers and keep their doors open. But as we heard from many of you, some parts of the initial rollout have not lived up to its legislative intent. Some big box banks are prioritizing big fish applicants, leaving small businesses anxious that they won't see a dime. Today, we will hear from small business owner Pilar Guzman, Althea Harris from the SBA South Regional Office, a lender update from Self-Help Credit Union Director of Business Development Tom Larson. Self-Help is the largest CDFI in the nation, particularly adept at serving businesses under 50 employees. We will get PPP Accounting 101 from ABIC Director of Operations, Angie Cruz. Angie will offer practical advice on calculating your payroll, which is super crucial to turn that loan into a grant. The second half of the webinar will be devoted to your questions. Q&A with Irakere Pincon, our Legal Services Director, and Rebecca Shee, Executive Director of ABIC, as well as Tom Larson from Self-Help Credit Union. Thank you to our members, partners, and our legislative champions, Velázquez and Chairman Rubio. They have been deeply knowledgeable, passionate, and not afraid to roll out the knives when certain respects of the PPP are not aligned with the legislative intent. So now I would like to introduce to you Pilar Guzman, CEO of Half Moon Empanadas.
Hello everybody. Thank you, Kathy, for having me. It is really in these times where you see, the work of the community together, and I'm very proud of being able to contribute and be part of organizations like IMPAC Fund. For us, it's been like for many of the restaurants in the country and in Florida, we've gone from having 13 locations open to having literally only the little window in my kitchen. So from 10 to 0.5 in sales. So it's been very challenging. I guess I do want to also share that there is a piece of this where you want to see, as a small business, things with hope, and you want to see that things do work. All the government efforts and the money that is trying to get to these small businesses, it is getting there. And I know there are a lot of small businesses that are frustrated, a lot of people that haven't gotten the money. And so my own experience has been that I applied through a big bank, through Bank of America. I submitted my application the first day, 8 in the morning, and I waited for 10 days. And I started talking to other business owners, and I saw nobody was getting the money from the big banks. And so I decided, I saw that everybody was getting their money from the local banks, from the community banks, from the organizations like Self-Help Union, the community development agencies. And so I reached out to actually IMPAC Fund, and I was able to get connected to U.S. Century Bank, a local bank, and that's how we were able to get the PPP money. I think we were among the last ones to get it in terms of the funds for that bank. So I think it's crucial that this new money coming in, it has to be through the smaller organizations and the small banks, because I still see my business friends that apply with Bank of America and Wells Fargo, they're still in the process of getting to somewhere. And so I think it's very scary and very frustrating, and it shouldn't be. And at the end, our workers are the ones that are also suffering because we're not able to offer jobs. So that's kind of where I am. I was able to have most of my workers, continue to work, and so I'm one of the few lucky ones. Thank you, Kathy. I don't know if there's anything else you want me to share. I'm happy to.
That's terrific. Thank you so much, Pilar. You've been one of the most active board members of IMPAC Fund, and we thank you so much for your service and all of the support that you give to small businesses in the community, as well as to our immigrant community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
We know that the obstacles that you've named are unfortunately not unique, and that's exactly what we want to address on today's webcast. At this time, I want to remind participants to please type in your questions that you have in the chat box. Our expert panel is going to be fielding these questions later at the end. So make sure that you put in the questions that you have along, and we are going to do our best to answer those. So now I would like to introduce to you Althea Harris with the SBA. Althea has been helping businesses for over 25 years. She started her federal career in 1993 with the Department of Commerce. She has traveled worldwide in support of small and medium business exporters. She has helped small business owners compete for federal contracts, and has held several positions within the SBA office in Miami since 1999. Althea now serves as a supervisory lead economic development specialist, leading on marketing and outreach with a team of 15 in the district's 24-county territory, and advocates on behalf of over 500,000 small business owners in those counties. Althea, it's really a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. Althea, by the way, has to jump off at 2:30 p.m. Thank you so much for making time to be with us for a couple of minutes today. We really appreciate you, Althea.
Oh, thank you, Kathy and Deanne. I really appreciate you and your willingness to include SBA. As you all probably know, we, along with Treasury, are the lead organizations, agencies in government in rolling out the PPP. The Paycheck Protection Program sits on the SBA 7A infrastructure in partnership with our banks. And we're just delighted to be a part of this process. As harrowing as it has been, it is gratifying to know that on the last round of PPP, over 1.6 million small businesses were able to get the over 340 some odd billion that was rolled out through nearly 5,000 lenders across the country. And I wanted to just make sure that you all know, because unfortunately the the outliers tend to get all this news coverage. But of that $349 billion, 74% of the loans went to employers, and the loan size was under $150,000. And so the bulk of the loans went in smaller increments, and less than 2% were for loans over $2 million. So I don't want you to think that in reality that all the money was gobbled up by what you might consider to be undeserving companies. That almost 75% of the loans went to establishments in increments under $150,000. So I wanted to just say about the next round, congratulations, first of all, for being on this outstanding webinar. The content you're going to get today will be extremely helpful to you to be prepared when the Congress and the President finish doing their jobs to get the package out the door, because we stand ready to deliver on that. And so part of the process is the gathering of the paperwork. I so enjoyed Pilar's testimony today, where she was among the first to apply, albeit at a big national bank. And her story is a very important one that has nuggets of wisdom in it. And I encourage you to review in your mind what she said, because it is not the big national banks who have literally millions of customers where you're likely to get a PPP loan. And so you might want to think about your other banking relationships. Maybe you have a credit union account, or the bank who holds your home mortgage may be willing to make the PPP loan to you. So thank you so much, Pilar, for sharing that. I also wanted to make sure that you remember SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, because the PPP, even in the second round, is very likely to go quickly. And I say that because lenders probably still do have applications that didn't make it in the first round. So they probably are looking at those and lining those up for funding first. So it's really going to be important for you to draw on whatever lending relationships you have in order to get funding in this next round, and listen out for all of the smaller banks and organizations that Kathy went through with us when she gave us the congressional update. So don't forget our Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Yep, you're welcome. Thank you all.
The EIDL, we'll be addressing some questions about the EIDL. Althea, thank you so much for joining us. That was a really, really very important update. Thank you so much. So now I would like to introduce Tom Larson. Tom Larson is with Self-Help Credit Union, right? And they're a national CDFI, and they have operations here in Florida, and I'm so excited. I was able to meet Tom a couple of years ago online, a couple of days ago, I should say, and his work is in promoting the growth and engagement of Florida for Self-Help Credit Union, which is a social welfare-focused community development financial institution. Prior to that, he worked for 6 years with the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy on climate policy research, analysis, and advocacy focused on Florida. Following a career principally in cargo transportation, promoting entrepreneurship, marketing, finance, and strategy. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's a pleasure, Kathy, and thank you for the opportunity to provide some perspectives on how the economic opportunities are shaping up under these trying situations, the disruption of COVID-19, and how do we keep moving forward. The PPP loan prospects have been very exciting to many. Self-Help has been able to serve and support applications for over 1,000 small businesses in about 14 states. We're principally in 7 states, but we also have friends and projects in other states around the country. Here in Florida, we are developing a foothold in the Miami area. I'm holding forth from Jacksonville. We have a prospect building a new footprint in Orlando, and we're serving small business people, women, people of color, folks that have not had opportunities presented to them in other financial institutions. The PPP situation has been trying. A very short time frame of development of the practices, the policy, the procedure at SBA. The banks had to line up. A lot of folks had to get permission from the SBA to be a host for applicants. It's been a trying time for many of the smaller institutions. And then the borrowers who are presenting themselves as candidates for PPP loans have had to learn about what data is eligible, supported by the program. It's actually pretty simple. It's your 941s for 4 quarters, line 2, add it up, add a few other expenses, divide by 12, multiply by 2.5, and that's your loan in a nutshell. But I want to identify that it very well may be that this next tranche of money that's hopefully going to be approved by Congress and the President shortly may go very quickly. It could be that if you don't already have an application underway with an institution, you may not get funded presently, even if the SBA opens the window for 2 or 3 days. There may be a lot of applications already prepared, either from the first round where people didn't make it before the window closed, or as banks and credit unions have fostered candidates over the last week or so for this second round. But have heart. It very well may be that more money comes into this channel, even if this present prospect gets subscribed fully pretty quickly. And then there's going to be other opportunities. The state of Florida has a disaster loan program that's offered through the Department of Economic Opportunity. Different cities are setting up loan or other funding prospects. I know about in Jacksonville, the city is collaborating with ViStar Credit Union for small businesses in Duval County. There may be some other loans, and I would point you to the self-help website. It has resources under its COVID-19 special webpage talking about options on a national basis or in Florida for small businesses and nonprofits as well.
Yes, and we're going to put a link to that at the end.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to add that a lot of our opportunity is going to be from our adapting to these new scenarios, to seeking innovation in our businesses. We've all had to learn new skills, getting more and more on these audio-visual connection calls. We've been having to figure out how to serve our markets, whether you be a restaurant taking to-go orders and bringing them to the curb, or if you've been a service group training your employees how to properly protect themselves and your customers with appropriate personal protective equipment. Cleaning in ways that are a bit more sanitary than we've experienced in the past. But, communications and technology and marketing channels are going to come, and some of this is going to stick. Some of this is going to be improving the productivity of our businesses. And so I would encourage you, say that you get a loan and you can bring back your employees, and if they're not fully engaged because your volume is down, put them to work doing projects that relate to your business's future. Get them to do research, have them renovate or clean the place, engage them in outreach activities that might not have been their prior tasks. Look for ways to strengthen yourself so that as this may go on for a bit after even the first 8 weeks that the PPP loan forgiveness is available for, we may have to continue to operate under unusual circumstances for some months. And nobody knows how this is going to play out. So we'll get into loan forgiveness, and I urge you to be diligent about keeping your data together so that you can realize the forgiveness you seek.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was incredibly helpful. Indeed, it is a time for innovation. At this time, I want to remind the participants again to please type in your questions that you may have in the chat box. Our expert panel will be fielding these later on the webcast. So now I would like to introduce you to Angie Cruz. Many of the questions that we have received on this webinar series have asked us how to obtain the calculation of allowable expenses when submitting the Paycheck Protection Program application to your lender. This is critical for getting the loan and for getting the loan forgiven within 8 weeks. So I am honored to introduce Angie Cruz. She is the Director of Operations at IMPAC. Angie grew up in the Pilsen neighborhood of Chicago. As a dreamer, Angie was a valedictorian of Benito Juarez High School and graduated college before there was even DACA. Then she helped police solve a crime and got her green card. Angie has years of experience in accounting, operations, systems, in corporate and nonprofit management. Welcome, Angie Cruz.
Thank you, Kathy, for that introduction. So I'm just going to present on a practical way to calculate the loan in 5 steps. The very first step is to calculate the salary. In this example, we have 3 employees whose principal place of residence is the U.S. Per PPP guidelines, you should exclude all compensation in excess of $100,000 earned by any employee. For our first employee who makes $120,000, they're entered at $100,000, and employees 2 and 3 are entered at $50,000 and $45,000 respectively, for a total of annual salary for PPP of $195,000. Moving on to step 2, we will calculate for total benefits compensation. In this example, this company pays for insurance premiums and retirement benefits for their 3 employees for a total of $5,400. Then moving on to steps 3 through 5, we will arrive at our maximum loan. First, we calculate the annual payroll by adding the total annual salary and benefits compensation, which we just calculated in steps 1 and 2, for this company's total annual payroll of $200,400. Next, we calculate the average monthly payroll by dividing the total annual payroll by 12 months and arrive at an average monthly payroll of $16,700. Then finally, we multiply the monthly average by 2.5 to get a maximum loan amount of $41,750. Next, your loan application may ask you to include how you spend the loan proceeds. It's important to keep in mind that you must, the loan must be used over the 8-week period after the loan is made to be considered for forgiveness. Additionally, at least 75% of the total loan should be used on payroll, and at most 25% can be used on eligible costs like rent, utilities, and mortgage interest. In this example, the company estimates that it will use $38,650 to cover the payroll costs over the 8 weeks, which is 93% of the loan, so they're okay. And it will spend $3,100 to cover utilities, rent, and insurance premiums, which is 7% of the loan. And finally, as Thomas Larson from South Home Credit Union mentioned, there's some documentation that you need to start gathering, which includes 941s, third-party payroll processing summary reports. And it's important to keep in mind that if you have a third-party payroll processing company, they can provide you with the reports that you need. They've tailored, I know of ADP has tailored a specific report that will pull all the numbers you need. Thank you.
Angie, thank you so much. Hopefully folks were able to follow along those really helpful slides, and we'll be able to answer more of your questions after this. So please make sure that you include any questions that you have in the chat, so we can make sure that we get those to you. So at this time, we're going to move forward to the question and answer portion of our webcast. Our expert panel who will be fielding the questions today includes Tom Larson from Self-Help Credit Union, Irakere Picon, the Director of Legal Services at ABIC, and Becca Shi, Executive Director of ABIC. Thank you so much to our panel, and now we're going to get started. So the first question that we have, and we want to try to get through as many questions as possible, so please make your answers as brief as they can, but obviously still, addressing the information that people want to get. So the first question that we have is, can employers include independent contractors?
And the answer to that. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Irakere Picon, the Director of Legal Services with the American Business Innovation Coalition. To answer that question, based on the guidance issued by the Small Business Administration, employers cannot include any compensation paid to independent contractors as part of the payroll calculation amount. And independent of that, independent contractors, although they are eligible for PPP, to apply for PPP by themselves, we know that independent contractors and sole proprietors have had difficulty submitting those applications, but they are eligible for PPP as a sole proprietor or independent contractor.
Thank you, Irakere. The next question is, what kind of documents will I have to submit to my bank? Tom, do you want to give that a shot?
Sure. The 941s and invoices from health insurance premiums that are paid for employees. There should be a summary available from your payroll processor that would include much of that. There may be some opportunities to pay interest on a mortgage that you may be paying for your business facility, or there may be lease payments, and there would need to be some evidence provided to support your loan application, and again then afterwards to get forgiveness to show that that's how these monies were spent.
Great, thank you so much. The next question we have is, I am the only employee at my business. Can I still apply?
Yes, you may.
Okay, great. The next question is, my business hasn't been open for a year yet. Can I still apply? Irakere?
So the test for eligibility is that the business must have been in operation as of February 15, 2020, and has paid payroll and payroll taxes. So if your business was in operation on February 15th and you previously paid payroll taxes and a salary or payroll, then your business would be eligible, provided you are considered a small business.
Okay, great. And in that case, how would you calculate the payroll? Who wants to take a stab at that?
Well, the payroll would be calculated by working with the data for the period that's available. And then you figure out the monthly average and then multiply by 2.5.
Okay, and I want to encourage folks that are on the line, if you have any questions after this, please feel free to send us an email, and we'll make sure to get you answers, okay? Next question. If my bank denies my application, what are my options?
I believe.
Becca, do you want to answer that one? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you believe you do qualify properly, consider approaching another institution.
Kathy, can I jump in? So I applied to 3 banks. So the third one was the one that gave me the money.
Okay, so this is Pilar.
Yes.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. Okay, the next question is, what is the difference
Kathy,
between...
This is Becca. I just want to echo Pilar, and I would also add folks should do it now, right? Because the House is expected to pass the bill sometime around 4 or 5 o'clock today. The president is expected to sign it immediately. Most banks are gearing up to open at midnight today, actually, but they're taking applications now. So I would just do what Pilar did, right? Like aggressively advocate for yourself. Go to the community banks, look at the CDFIs, even look at some of the bigger banks, and just apply to multiple places that will take you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Becca. Yeah, and as we know, many of these banking institutions already have several applications that are pending. So most likely they're going to process those applications first. So it's so important to get yourself in the queue if you aren't there yet. And then, you know, I actually wanted to ask a question. Could somebody address the different stages of approval and how that should inform, you know, what somebody's next step should be? So, you know, we've heard of people who applied and never heard back, or applied and were approved. Who can talk to us about that?
Well, I've intimately been hands-on with several applications through self-help, and we accept applications. We qualify them, trying to make sure that we're meeting the SBA's requirements with the applicant's support, and then we put them up to our quality control group, who sets them ready to go to the SBA. When the windows open, they use a facility to submit those applications. We're hoping that our quality control is good enough that they get approved by the SBA directly. We've been getting back very fast, sometimes within minutes, approval numbers, which basically is the final decision. So once an approval number comes back to us, we can then work to get a loan set up and closed, supported by the SBA's guarantee. I do want to caution for those who've not heard back from a bank, that probably means they haven't put you into their processing system. It may be that they're queued up with enough activity that they just can't get to you. You need to be asking for the SBA approval number.
That is very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Tom. The next
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ask a question, please. Tom, who are you with? What company, please?
Self-Help Credit Union.
Self-Help.
Self-help.org.
Credit Union. Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. Just one quick question, though. What if we can't get through to the bank? You know, if we've submitted an application and we haven't heard anything, the bank isn't answering, they're saying don't call us, we'll call you. What do you suggest at that point?
Oh, sorry, who's speaking?
This is Janine Pringle.
Oh, thank you, Janine.
I recommend that you approach another institution, ask a friend, go to a board member, seek help from someone else in your industry who has had success. Some people have had to apply 3 places until they get attention. It's sad. At Self-Help, we are trying to manage our throughput so that we don't disappoint the expectations of anybody that we encounter.
Thank you so much, Tom. The next question is, what is the difference between PPP and EIDL? The economic, who can answer that?
This is Irakere. The main differences between the EIDL and the PPP is that the EIDL is a program that has already existed within the SBA. It's a disaster loan. What changed under the CARES Act was that it added a $10,000 advance grant as part of an application to the disaster loan program that a business is supposed to get within 3 days of applying for the loan. There's different requirements needed for the loan, but what's important to note is that in order to receive the $10,000 advance grant, the borrower has to apply for a disaster loan with the SBA directly. Even if the loan is denied, the advance grant can still be dispersed as part of the SBA. The PPP is something that was created under the CARES Act as part of the COVID-19 relief, and operates through SBA certified lenders. So it's similar to the 7A lending program, but it's administered by the banks as opposed to the SBA, like the disaster loan program.
Well, let me add to that. The PPP loan has a forgivable component, and it's intended to mostly be forgiven, where the EIDL loan, after the grant that you might earn at the beginning, there is no forgiveness, and the interest rate's higher, but the term could be longer, as much as 30 years, I understand. Now, the PPP loan is a shorter term, and if you actually don't spend all the money you intended to, you can either return the money immediately and have no penalty, or you may be set up for a loan that's at 1% for 2 years.
Thank you so much. The next question, I have a regular payroll. I've been paying myself with a 1099. Can I include this in my expenses?
The 1099 cannot be included. Only salaries and wages, the gross that would be paid to an employee, plus that additional health care or benefits that are for retirement.
Okay. The next question, I think we've already answered this. Can you apply to more than one bank? Like the panelists have advised. If you haven't heard anything from your bank, look for those community lenders, those smaller banks, CDFIs, MDIs in your community, and aggressively advocate for yourself and make sure that you apply. You can only get approved at one place at a time. So is there anything that the panelists would like to add to that?
Well, I've heard that the SBA will be checking the FEINs and make sure that it doesn't issue authorizations for more than one loan for a party. That you shouldn't do this intending and hoping to get 2 loans, but if you have made an application and have not heard from an institution and you do go and make another application, it's not a problem for you to have applied twice.
Okay, thank you. Can an LLC with only one employee apply for PPP? This is a limited liability corporation.
The answer I've heard is pretty much yes. I would have, I'm not for sure the details. There may be some oddities, but I think pretty much the answer would be yes.
I would add that. I would add that, assuming that the sole owner and employee of the LLC is paid out in terms of a salary, then that would be able to be included in the payroll amount. So that would be the only caveat in terms of a sole sort of single person owner employee LLC.
Okay, great. Can an LLC with only one employee apply for PPP? Oh wait, we already asked that. The next question, can the money be used for inventory or other business expenses?
Not PPP money. EIDL money or other program loan monies might be eligible for these other types of expenses, but the PPP is really targeted at keeping people employed or helping you recall employees for the next 8 weeks and getting that money back into the economy and supporting the community.
Great. The next question, can sole proprietors apply?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The next one is, how do I calculate the maximum loan if I am self-employed?
On your Schedule C, you have an income. If you've filed your 2019 taxes, that income can be used as the basis for your loan application. It would be a 12-month average that's calculated, a monthly average, and then you could apply.
Okay, and related to this, what would the required documents be if I am an independent contractor?
I'm going to venture an answer, but I would suggest if somebody needs this consideration to ask it very carefully with an institution. I believe your 1099 payments would qualify as your salary equivalent amount.
Okay.
And I would add that there are restrictions to what can be included in terms of those types of calculations. Any compensation, payments, contracts that amount or are in excess of $100,000, that can't be included as part of an independent contractor or sole proprietor's salary calculation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, if folks have any questions, we're doing really great with our questions today. You can add them to the chat, and we're running through all of them, okay? The next question, can I send in 2 applications for a small business if I am an independent contractor?
2 applications.
So I guess that means one for the business and one for the individual?
I did, this is Pilar, I did 2 applications. I have 2, it's the same company, but I processed it with two different companies, different EIN numbers. Therefore, they asked me to do 2 different applications.
Okay, that is helpful to know.
I've heard that happening. I've heard that happening at self-help as well. It's complex, but our reviewers, our legal quality control people are saying that yes, we can do it, but like was outlined there, you've got to have different tax numbers.
Okay, and the next question, do I qualify if I do not take a salary and I am the only employee?
I'm afraid not.
Okay, the next one, I only use independent contractors for my business. Can I still apply?
If you're paying a salary or drawing regularly, you can. Your employees, the independent contractors, can make their own applications.
Okay. Where would I go to apply with self-help?
On the self-help webpage, there is a COVID-19 hyperlink. I'm navigating it right now to self-help.org, and the way to get into this is through the COVID-19 updates link that pops up on the front page.
And we're working really closely with self-help, so if you have any other questions, please contact us here at IMPAC Fund so we can, help make that connection. The next question, I have oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add, though, that I believe we should circle back to report that the PPP loan is not necessarily going to be available to everybody. And we may have to help people, different institutions, different grant-making bodies with other tools, because the SBA program may not fulfill all of the expectations, all of the demand. And so there may be other avenues that have to be pursued, either requesting forbearance from a current lender or making an arrangement with a lease-making party for your building, or there may be other arrangements that one needs to make, because this PPP program may not be available for the whole demand that may be out there.
Yes, so we definitely need to adjust expectations. The next question we have is, I have a processing number from the EIDL. Can I still apply for PPP?
Yes. The economic impact disaster loans are separate and can be applied for separately from the PPP. In the PPP dialogue, there is the option of identifying how much you may be getting from the EIDL. It's been the Council of Self-Help that you maintain them separately and handle them independently.
Okay, I wanted to ask Irakere about calculating the loan amount if you got EIDL.
So yes, you're not barred from applying for one if you already received funds from the other. The only thing to note is that if you received an EIDL loan, whatever you receive, the first $10,000 in terms of the advance grant will be reduced from the PPP loan that you qualify for. So that's the only thing that will impact the PPP loan, but you're not barred from applying for both EIDL and PPP.
Okay, great. And we've got one of our last questions here. Can I still apply if I have not filed my 2019 taxes yet? Should I use my 2018 taxes?
The 2018 taxes cannot be used by a sole proprietor, Schedule C, for instance. Your 2019 941s, if you've been making proper payments under the EFTPS system, those would be the evidence that would be suitable. Now, there is the option of starting your annual calculation at the beginning of the second quarter of 2019 and running through the end of the first quarter of 2020. But the 2018 data is not able to support a PPP application.
Okay, does anybody want to add something to that?
I do.
Okay.
This is Pilar.
Go ahead. Hey, Pilar.
I just want to say it again. Please go to the local banks, go to the local organizations, the community banks, organizations like Self-Help Credit. That's going to be the most efficient way. I've seen it with many entrepreneurs in Miami, and I think 99% of them got their money from local banks. So just to stress that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. These local banks, CDFIs, MDIs have been such incredibly important partners to small businesses through all of this. And I just wanted to give a big shout out again to Self-Help Credit Union, and want to give their website for folks to please check them out. It's self-help.org. Please check out their website and their resources. And again, if you haven't applied yet, we have to have realistic expectations, but definitely, we are encouraging people to try and to go local and to go small. So thank you again for all of your thoughtful questions. Thank you so much to our panelists for giving us your valuable time today. Again, if you are in line with your bank, talk to your lender, see if they already have an approval number for you. Where are you in the process? If they're not communicating, go to a community bank, MDI or CDFI in your area. Some community banks are going to work through round one first, and then they'll be able to take on new people, but probably very few. But it definitely doesn't hurt to try. If we're successful in Congress to get this set aside, we will let you know which CDFIs have money. So, I want to share with you a message of caution, a message of hope, that we are in this together. We want to, help keep people employed. We want to continue being innovative, organizing for the sustainability of our organizations and our businesses. Grant forgiveness is going to be, it's not going to be hard, but you got to make sure that you are documenting things meticulously in order to get it. Please continue to count on us. We're going to continue informing you. And thanks again to our incredible panelists and for all of your support and for being with us today. Thank you very much, everybody. I wish you a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for bringing all this terrific information.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Great job, everybody. Thanks so much.